guys, this is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal development for INFJs and how to create an epic life on your terms. Today we're talking about detoxing from 2020. And as you all know, we only have a couple of weeks left till the year's over and then we start a new chapter. And I'm gonna use that time to reset a lot of my thoughts, a lot of my behavior, and to get ready for an amazing new chapter. And I'm gonna take you on a transition with me. So the thing is this, we as INFJs are masters at transformation. We have already established that. We've talked about it in a lot of other videos. So this is also how I want us to approach when we look back in 2020. It's not about cancel culture. It's not about saying this year didn't happen. It's about understanding that it brought a lot of things to the surface, and now we get to examine how we react to certain situations, how we can adapt to the new life we may be living due to all the things that happened this year, and how this could be the biggest chance to find that peace in you that will bring you to the next step of creating your INFJ epic life. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to take the next step in creating your INFJ epic life, then definitely check out the INFJ Epic Life Masterclass. We are in the final sales stage, so probably until the end of January, you have the chance to get that offer we have right now, and afterwards I'm going to discontinue it so I can focus on bootcamp and on coaching. So this is the last chance you get to use that offer, so be quick. So I hear a lot of people talk about cancel culture. For the ones of you who don't know what that is a buzzword pretty much of saying that something is like bad or we're not gonna support that anymore. And it pretty much means to door slam something in the INFJ term. And this is not what I want us to do when it comes to 2020. See, everything that happened, some people lost their jobs, people got sick, there were so many movements. It brought so many emotions to the surface, and it still is a trigger for every person out there. And so you have to understand it like this. We as humans, not just INFJs, are addicted to negativity. The reason for it is because of our mind. It's how we're set up in order to protect ourselves. Back in the day, when we were running for our lives, it was important that we focus on the negative, that we focus on the danger in order to be able to survive and pick up what isn't going well. But nowadays, we're not in that situation anymore. So we have to actively cultivate our thoughts and what we want to happen in the future, because if we allow to stay in this default state, we keep reliving the past. So every single time you encounter something this year, it's not necessarily that this is the reason why you felt bad, because you have to imagine it like this. So let's say you're in this isolated area where everybody's nice and everything is good, then of course you're not being reminded that actually you are still triggerable when it comes to somebody saying something about, let's say, your intellect or your heritage or whatever it is. Just pick something. It's just an example. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, just because we're not confronted with something does not mean that we have overcome it. So all the things that happened this year and that caused us to have an emotional reactions, those are just things that happened on the outside that we then get triggered by. So just because those things didn't pop up in the years before didn't mean that we were resilient to them or we had overcome them. But now if we look at it and we understand that it's our mind that decide what it's going to focus on, because things happen, things are out of our control. But we as INFJs, remember, we are transformers. We get to understand the situation, make our conclusions about it, and then change the narrative, change the story we're telling ourselves. So when it comes to 2020, it's not about forgetting that anything happened. It's about detoxing from the negative responses we had to it. Because if you imagine that we are all addicted to negativity, and then you have so many opportunities to go back into negativity because your subconscious mind does things without you noticing. So, something happens that isn't what you want it to be. What does your mind do? It thinks about all the things that are not going well. It thinks about what isn't going in a direction you want, how bad things are, how things are out of your control. And this year in particular, this happened in so many facets, it's not even funny. So what can we do? We can either allow all of those things to have an impact on us, or to understand that yes, Thank you, 2020. Thank you for all of this happening. This was bound to happen anyways. And now I get to understand how I am in control of my reactions. Because before that, maybe you wouldn't have been aware of your own reactions to certain situations. This is rather difficult for most people. And I always tell you, use the fact that you have this transformation power within you. Use those times. I use them. So for me, that's a catalyst. I look at 2020 as this great opportunity to rearrange all of the things that are happening in our minds. Because imagine this, you wake up and you always have the same routine. You pick up your mails, or you look through Instagram, or you watch the news, whatever it is, there's always the same pattern. So you start your day every single time with the same intentions, with the same look. You don't get to actually expand at that moment because you're already reliving something that happened before. I don't know exactly the percentage, but there's like over 80% or over 90% that we do on default all the time, every single day. And in order to grow, in order to experience abundance on all levels, so experiencing life more, living that INFJ epic life, reaching our dreams, going for the life we want, in order to do that, we have to get more and more in control of our thoughts. Because our thoughts decide, what am I going to focus on? What do I want? What is a necessity for me to be content with the situation? And if we're really used to all this negativity, we always say, okay, that's the norm. So this is what I want, this is what I need, and this is what I'm going to gravitate towards. So when I'm talking about detoxing from 2020, I'm talking about understanding what was the trigger. What was the thing that really made me feel like I'm out of control? Why was I addicted to that emotion? And to change that. So let's say because of the pandemic, you lost your job and you felt like the world doesn't like me, everything is going against my will, nothing is turning out great, and then, on top of that, somebody gets sick that you knew very well, and then you got into this big fight with your mom, and so it's like, over and over again, and then you kind of feel like, okay, this is completely overwhelming me and I'm not moving forward. I don't feel like I'm living that epic life. What am I supposed to do now? The first step is to detox from your emotional reaction. Understanding that all of those things are happening and that they do not mean that you have to have a certain reaction towards it. You get to decide, do I see this as an opportunity? Do I see this as something that is really just hurting me and I don't look past it? Do I look at it as something which is completely out of my control and I'm just a victim to it? Or do I understand that all of those things are happening, but I get to decide what I focus on? See, when I start talking to people about this, there's always this weird look in their face of, what do you mean? Like, I cannot not react. Like, people tell me, so what? Let's say my friend tells me that, she had a really bad relationship problem and I start feeling bad for her. I start to suffer with her. And then, like, what other choice do I have? I have to think about this. No, you don't. You can help her by understanding the situation, by listening to her, by giving her good advice, but there's no benefit of you feeling bad for her. There's no benefit from you thinking about the situation when you go home. There's no benefit of being angry over and over again at the same situation. There is none. Are you actively doing something to help the other person? No. Is the other person actually changing their behavior? Because, that's the thing, let's say you are mad about. Like, do they change their behavior because you're angry half of the day? No. So it is on us to continuously choose to think of new things, to continuously understand that all of those things might happen on the outside, but we get to decide how we react to it, how we transform it, and how we interpret it. So the first step I always do in this whole process is detoxing. And detoxing in this case means to me understanding that my thoughts are not me. I get to decide what my thoughts are going to be. And then of course you're going to go back to your default state. It's normal. So saying to you like, okay, now you're going to think about positive things, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen right away. It's not going to happen all the time. But if you continuously choose to tell yourself a new story, to look at the situation from a different perspective, the more often you do that, the easier it is to get back to that. And at some point, these things will happen automatically just because you live it, because they're represented in your life, they're represented through the choices you make, and they're represented through the actions you take. And we as INFJs have the unique ability to make that transformation process faster because we can exchange stories. We've talked about this, that if you get, for example, into a new scene or you meet a new social group, you're able to create a new emotional atmosphere or to see what the emotional atmosphere is and then adapt to it. That's actually the power of transformation, being able to see things through a different lens. So look at everything that happened in 2020, and I'm doing the same thing. Things that have triggered you. Take that as a great opportunity. First off, don't think of it of what a horrible year, all of those bad things happened, but look at it as what has this taught me? What triggered me? Because maybe let's say 10 things happened that other people got really upset about, but there's this one thing that really made you nervous, that made you scared about the future, that made you worry, whatever it is, that made you angry. What was that? And then ask yourself, what is this really about? First off, remember, I'm addicted to negativity. We're changing that, right? We don't want to say that, but we first have to understand what's going on. So first off, I'm getting upset because I'm addicted to negativity. That's a fact. If we're not able and willing to accept that, we cannot take the next step. So please, if this is already something that you're struggling with, then take your time with this. Understand that you don't have to have the reaction you have right now. So with that, you abstract yourself from the situation. You understand that you are not your thoughts. And that if you think about it rationally, being mad about something, not forgiving people, being in a state of angst and worry isn't helping you. It doesn't make the situation better. Worrying, if you're not actively doing something about it, it keeps you at the same spot. So we've talked about this. What are good worry thoughts? Good worry thoughts are, I'm leaving my apartment and then I remember, oh, I might have left the stove on. That's a worry thought worth thinking about, because first, you can do something about it. For example, you can go back and check it. And second of all, there is a benefit from thinking about it because you can change the situation and you can change it in that instant. Same thing, there might be even things that are worth thinking about or worth worrying about because you can change them, but not right now. So thinking about them right now won't make it better. This is a rational thought you can have, knowing that your emotions want to go back to that. Your emotions want you to rethink what's going on and how bad it is. And this is like how the election went or whatever is going through your mind that this year has brought up for you. And then you get to ask yourself, okay, am I changing something about the situation while thinking and worrying and having negative thoughts about it? If the answer is no, then let's take the story out of it. Let's look at it from one step above and understand, oh, amazing, I found out something about myself. I found out that this triggers me because my old self was so addicted to negativity, but my new self decides to continuously choose my future. And you're gonna see, we're gonna talk about it in the next videos in detail of how we're going to continuously choose our thoughts for the future in order not only to create an amazing 2021 on the outside, but also get you to a point where you get excited every day, where you're full of abundance, where you're full of gratitude, where you are just eager to join the world and make it a better place and stick up for your beliefs. This is an amazing opportunity that this year has brought us, because thinking about everything bad that came with it isn't going to change anything about it. But you as an INFJ, somebody who is really good at transformation, you can use that as a catapult to rise from the ashes, to allow this chaos and this turmoil to rearrange so many things that are going on and to help you to create a new default state, a new reality that will make your life that much better. So guys, take your time until the next video to think about what really triggered you, how you're gonna detox the story out of it, how you're gonna look at it from a positive perspective, and then you'll see the next videos we're gonna talk much more about how to create those new habits for the new year, how to get ready, what kind of goals to set, and how to get excited all year round. Remember, if you want to take the next step in creating your INFJ epic life, then definitely check out the Epic Life Masterclass. You have so much information there. There's no better time to get it because it's, you know, final sale time and to get ready for the new year. If you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then watch the video on why INFJs can't let go. It really looks at the situation with a little twist. And like always, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time. Bye.